The Nature of Reality by Joe Bandra. Welcome to Conversations That Awaken, a podcast where science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, and direct experience come together to explore life's deepest questions. What is reality? Who are you beyond your thoughts, beliefs, and stories? Is consciousness merely a product of the brain, or is it the very foundation of existence itself? Join us as we journey beyond assumptions, challenge conventional thinking, and investigate the mysteries that have fascinated humanity for thousands of years. This is more than a conversation. It is an invitation to awaken to a deeper understanding of yourself, the universe, and the extraordinary reality we all share. Welcome to Conversations That Awaken.
I want you to pause whatever you were doing for just a second and really think about what is happening in this exact moment.
Right, just take a breath and notice what's going on.
Yeah, because you and I, we are actively participating in, well, a literal superpower. Right now, I am making a series of these tiny modulated vibrations with my mouth.
Just pushing air around, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. Just pushing air. And those vibrations are traveling through the air. They're entering your ears, vibrating your eardrums. And suddenly, completely out of thin air, I'm creating entire worlds inside your head.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you break it down like that.
It really is. I'm conjuring up emotions, synthesizing memories, and, constructing these incredibly complex ideas. Because of this bizarre superpower, human beings can teach advanced calculus.
Or build modern infrastructure.
Right. Or compose symphonies, order a pepperoni pizza, or, and this is the big one, fiercely argue with strangers on the internet about things neither person actually understands.
Which is arguably the internet's main purpose at this point. But you're right, it is the ultimate tool of creation. We've built the entire modern civilization out of nothing more than grunts, sounds, and abstract symbols.
Language is, without a doubt, one of humanity's greatest inventions. But, and this is the massive mind-bending turn we are taking today, this incredible invention might also be our absolute greatest prison.
Yeah, that's the real hook here.
We are going to explore the terrifying possibility that the very tool we are using right now to try and understand reality is the exact thing actively preventing us from seeing reality clearly.
Which fundamentally changes the stakes, how we interact with information. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we aren't just talking about grammar or linguistics today.
No, not at all.
We are talking about the unseen architecture of human limitation. If you can understand the mechanics of how language is secretly trapping you, you can completely change how you approach your hardest problems, how you navigate your relationships.
And ultimately, how you define your own identity. We are exploring source material from Chapter 3 of Joe Bandra's fascinating book on the nature of reality.
It's a good chapter.
It's incredible. Specifically, we are going to dissect what Joe Bandra calls the Great Language Trap. Our goal is to uncover exactly how this tool tricks our neurology, how it artificially divides our world, and, well, how it actively filters out the truth of what we are actually looking at.
And to really see the trap, you have to realize that it was set before you could even speak.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, Bandra suggests looking at how a newborn baby experiences the world. We assume babies see what we see, just, with less context.
They're just tiny adults who don't know the names of things yet.
Right, exactly. But functionally, when you look at a newborn, you are looking at a being operating entirely prior to concepts. That baby does not know the word mother.
Oh, wow.
They don't know father or crib or blanket. They don't even possess the conceptual framework to understand what a baby is.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the implications of that are wild. We assume a baby looks at a chair and just doesn't know the name for it yet.
Right.
But without the word chair, the baby doesn't even see a separate object.
It's all just happening at once.
Exactly. For that newborn, reality is just direct, unfiltered sensory input. It's just this wash of color, sound, temperature, and movement. There are no borders in their reality.
Not at all.
It appears as a completely seamless, undivided whole, a massive, continuous happening. But then we teach them language, and the slicing begins.
Yeah, slicing is the perfect mechanical description of what happens in the brain. The mind starts wielding words like a scalpel.
Oh, that's a great image.
It draws these harsh lines across that seamless whole, creating boundaries where absolutely none previously existed in nature. We point and say, This is a tree.
That is a dog.
This is you, and that over there is not you.
This is yours, and that is mine.
Right, and within a few short years, that undivided universe is just chopped up into thousands and thousands of separate, distinct, isolated objects.
The tragedy, or, maybe the humor in Bandra's text, is the reminder that reality itself never created a single one of those divisions. We did.
We made it all up.
Literally. Think about it. Nature has no labels. Galaxies do not introduce themselves when you look at them through a telescope.
They don't wave hello.
Right.
Yeah.
Atoms don't walk around with little name tags. A mountain never cleared its throat and announced, "Hello, my name is Everest."
Yeah, we completely fabricated all of those names out of thin air, and then generation by generation, we suffered collective amnesia and just forgot that we made them up.
It reminds me of drawing imaginary borders on a map of the ocean.
Oh, I like that.
You can buy a map of the Pacific, and you can draw thick red Sharpie lines all over it to mark different territories. But if you take a boat out there, the water doesn't care.
The water doesn't respect your red line.
Not at all. The ocean is just the ocean.
What's fascinating here is how that map metaphor highlights our daily cognitive dissonance. We mistake the map for the actual territory so thoroughly that we stop seeing the territory altogether.
We just look at the map.
Yeah. Bandra points out that we look at a tree, our brain pulls up the file labeled tree, and we immediately think, I know what that is. I've seen it a million times.
And so we stop looking.
We stop looking entirely. But if we actually strip away the label and interrogate the physical object in front of us, the boundaries immediately dissolve. I mean, where does the tree actually end?
I want to trace this out because this completely broke my brain when I read it. Where do the roots of the tree stop and the soil begin?
You can't really say.
You can't. At a microscopic level, they are completely exchanging matter. You cannot have the tree without the soil.
And if you keep pulling in that thread, where does the soil stop and the fungal network begin?
Oh, right, the mycelium.
Yeah. Where does the leaf stop and the atmosphere begin?
You trace it all the way back, and the object just vanishes into a process. Without the rain, there is no tree. Without the sun operating 93 million miles away, there is no tree.
It's all connected.
Without the carbon dioxide that you and I are breathing out right now, there is no tree. Without the gravity of the Earth or the fundamental forces of the universe holding the atoms together, there is literally no tree.
The inescapable physical reality is that the tree depends upon the entire universe to exist in this exact moment.
It's wild.
Reality simply appears as this massive, interconnected, singular happening. But language cannot process the whole.
It's too big.
Way too big. So it isolates one tiny, arbitrary fraction of that infinite process, throws a conceptual box around it, slaps the label tree on it, and tricks our brains into thinking it's a standalone object that exists independently.
So if nature doesn't have labels, and every object is actually just a temporary expression of the whole universe, what exactly are the words we are using all day long?
They are nothing more than impoverished descriptions. Bandra references a brilliant analogy from the philosopher Alan Watts for this.
Oh, I love Alan Watts.
Me too.
Yeah.
Watts used to joke that human beings are chronically starving because we constantly confuse the menu with the meal.
Yes. The menu is not the meal.
Exactly. A menu is just a piece of paper with ink on it that describes the food in the kitchen. It is not the food. You cannot satisfy your physical hunger by eating a paper menu.
If I took you to a Michelin star restaurant and we just sat there chewing on the cardboard menus, it would be absurd.
They'd probably kick us out.
They absolutely would. But we are essentially doing this cognitively every single day. We spend our entire lives interacting with our mental descriptions of things rather than the living things themselves.
It's so true.
The word water is completely dry. It cannot quench your thirst. The word love is just a sound. It cannot actually make you feel loved. The description is never the reality.
Which creates a profound illusion of understanding. The trap springs the second we name a mystery.
The moment we put a label on it.
The moment a label appears in the mind, human inquiry stops. The mystery of existence disappears behind a cheap, two-dimensional word.
Okay, I am struggling with a massive practical problem here, though.
Let's hear it.
If we completely abandon the menu, how do we order the food? Language is absolutely necessary for survival.
Sure.
If a tiger is running at me, I can't just stand there marveling at the undivided, unlabeled, seamless whole of the universe.
You'd be eaten very quickly.
Exactly. I need the concept of tiger, the concept of danger, and the concept of run.
If labels are such a terrible trap, how are we supposed to function?
Well, Bandra is incredibly careful to make this distinction. The premise here is not that language is inherently evil or useless.
Right.
Language is arguably the most extraordinarily useful tool in the universe. Without it, there is no survival, no science, no philosophy, no art.
So what's the problem then?
The danger is not the tool itself. The danger is forgetting that it is just a tool. There's an old Zen proverb that language is like a finger pointing at the moon.
Pointing at the moon, okay.
You absolutely need the finger to direct someone's attention to the sky. But wisdom begins when you realize you aren't supposed to stare at the finger.
Because if you just look at the finger, you miss the moon. Exactly. If you mistake the finger for the moon, you miss all that heavenly glory. We need labels to navigate traffic, to build bridges, and to survive predators. We just shouldn't confuse those survival labels with the ultimate truth of reality.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it is incredibly easy for you or me to listen to this and dismiss it as a fun, esoteric brain teaser.
Just something to ponder over a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. But this language trap has teeth. It literally broke modern science.
It fundamentally stalled our understanding of the universe. Science encountered an impenetrable wall in the early 20th century precisely because of the mechanical limits of our vocabulary.
Tell me about that. What happened?
Well, for centuries, classical physicists operated under the unquestioned assumption that matter consisted of tiny, solid, individual objects. The word particle creates a very specific, inescapable geometry in the human mind.
We picture a tiny, hard billiard ball with clear boundaries.
Exactly.
But then quantum mechanics arrived, and the universe aggressively refused to cooperate with the English dictionary.
It really did.
Suddenly, these so-called solid, discrete particles started behaving like waves of potential. And then, depending on how they were measured, those continuous waves started behaving like discrete particles again.
Which just didn't make any sense based on the words we had.
Right. Physicists were losing their minds because the math was showing them something that our vocabulary physically could not accommodate.
Niels Bohr, who was foundational to quantum physics, realized that our everyday language was structurally incapable of describing quantum reality.
Because language wasn't built for that.
Think about why language evolved. It evolved for tracking predators, identifying edible berries, and coordinating tribal movements on the African savanna.
It was engineered for macroscopic survival.
Exactly. It was never designed to articulate the fundamental non-dual fabric of space-time. Bohr saw that reality was under no obligation to fit into our linguistic boxes.
But the physicist David Bohm took this a step further, and this is the part that explains why the science actually broke down. He looked at the actual grammatical structure of the languages we speak.
Yeah, Bohm pointed out that our language doesn't just fail to describe reality, its very mechanics actively force us into a fragmented worldview.
How so?
Consider how English grammar operates. You are forced to use a subject acting upon an object. The boy hits the ball.
Right. Subject, verb, object.
Our grammar demands that the universe be populated by separate doers and separate things being done to. It forces us to assume separate people, separate objects, separate causes, and separate effects.
It's hardwired into the sentences.
It continuously mechanically reinforces division, preventing us from mathematically or conceptually grasping a universe that operates as a single undivided flow.
Okay, so if grammar is forcing physicists to literally hallucinate boundaries in the quantum realm, what is it forcing us to see when we interact with each other?
Oh, that's where it gets really personal.
Think about the mechanics of everyday psychology. What
Yeah.
happens when someone looks at you and says, "You're a failure"? Notice the physical sensation in your body right now just hearing that.
The visceral reaction is instantaneous.
It really is.
And if you look closely at the mechanics of why that hurts, it's because language just successfully executed a magic trick. It collapsed a complex, ever-changing human being into a static concept.
It froze them in time.
In that moment, the label failure feels more tangible, more real than the living, breathing, multifaceted person standing there. The mind takes the living reality and replaces it with a rigid, dead idea.
And we do this constantly, violently, to ourselves and to everyone around us. We throw around these heavy concrete labels: genius, loser, spiritual, atheist, rich, poor.
We love our label.
We really do.
Yeah.
And look at how we weaponize political labels. You label someone a Democrat or a Republican, and just to be completely clear here, we are absolutely not taking any political sides. We are just neutrally reporting on the mechanics discussed in the source material. But the sheer mechanical act of applying one of those labels instantly simplifies a human being's complexity into a cartoon.
It completely flattens them.
The label deletes the living nuance and replaces it with a predictable category.
And the reason our brains are so addicted to doing this is cognitive load. Reality is deeply uncertain. It's constantly shifting and incredibly complex to process.
It takes a lot of energy to deal with reality.
A lot of energy. A label reduces that load. It creates artificial certainty. A label feels safe because it feels known, even if it's completely inaccurate.
So if language is aggressively fragmenting the outer world of science and the social world of psychology, what is it doing to our inner world?
This is where Bandra's analysis hits closest to home. Let's examine a completely ordinary sentence. Imagine saying, "I'm looking at the tree."
Okay. Sounds pretty standard.
It sounds entirely harmless, but mechanically, hidden inside the structure of that sentence are three massive, unproven assumptions.
Wait, 3.
Yes. It posits an I, a separate observer sitting inside your head. It posits a tree, a separate object out there in the world. And it posits the act of looking a bridge connecting two isolated things.
Wow.
The language mandates 3 separate entities, but if you try to find them in your actual experience, well, they aren't there.
Let's do this in real time. I want to try this. If I strip away the English language right now, and I just look at the microphone in front of me, without the words I and their microphone, there is no separate me over here and object over there.
What's actually there?
There is just the happening of sight. There is color. There is awareness. It's one unified event.
Exactly. The separate observer, that distinct I that feels like a little person piloting a flesh mech suit from behind your eyes, is an illusion generated by grammar.
The flesh mech suit. That is a terrifying and perfect description.
It's what it feels like. But language arrives a millisecond after the experience happens, labels it, and retroactively splits the unified experience in two. Language actually creates the illusion of the separate self.
Which fundamentally alters the most important question a human being can ask. Who am I? I want you, the listener, to actually ask yourself that right now. Who am I?
What comes up first?
If you pay attention, your mind will immediately rush in with a barrage of menus. I am a mother. I am an engineer. I am retired. I am an anxious person. I am a success.
But the mechanics of the language trap dictate that every single one of those answers is merely another concept, another string of sounds, a thought.
It's not the meal.
No. The actual vibrating reality of your existence is occurring prior to every description your brain can generate. A label might accurately describe a temporary role you are playing, but it is fundamentally not you. Just as the word fire cannot burn your finger, the word self is not the self.
And thought doesn't just isolate us in space, it isolates us in time. Watch the mechanics of your own mind. Notice how your thoughts are a continuous, exhausting story machine.
Always running.
Always. They are constantly dragging your attention into a conceptual past with memories and regrets, or projecting you into a conceptual future with anxieties and hopes. The story of yesterday, the story of tomorrow, the story of me.
Meanwhile, physical reality only possesses one tense, now.
Only now.
The actual universe is only ever happening in this exact millisecond, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. And the profound thing about the present moment is that it requires absolutely zero language to exist.
It's just happening.
It happens entirely before thought arrives to narrate it. Thought shows up late to the party, looks at what just happened, and says, "Oh, this is what is going on," but reality simply is.
Language insists, I am here, isolated in this body, and the hostile world is out there. But the physical facts of the universe scream the exact opposite.
They really do.
The air you are pulling into your lungs right now was literally inside the leaves of trees hours ago. The iron in your blood and the calcium in your bones were forged in the collapsing centers of dying stars billions of years ago.
We're just recycled stardust.
Exactly. Your very thoughts, the ones you think are so uniquely yours, were shaped by the language, culture, and parents that preceded you. There is no independent existence. Reality is pure relationship. Language is just a grid we draw over the ocean to pretend the waves are separate from the water.
This mechanical limitation of language brings us to a profound paradox that has frustrated philosophers and mystics for millennia. Thought is an incredibly sharp tool for investigating parts of reality, but it will always inevitably fail to capture the whole of reality because thought itself is just one tiny piece of the whole.
The flashlight analogy that Bandra uses to explain this is completely brilliant. Think of human consciousness and our ability to use language as a powerful flashlight in a dark room.
Okay, a flashlight.
That flashlight is incredible at its job. It can illuminate the table, the chair, the door. It can dissect and analyze any object you point it at. But imagine trying to use that flashlight to illuminate the source of its own light.
You can't do it.
You can't turn the beam back on the bulb. Thought can brilliantly analyze the outside world, but it mechanically fails when it tries to turn around and investigate the very source of consciousness from which thought arises. The tool is wrong for the job.
This is exactly why quantum physicists hit the wall of uncertainty, and it is exactly why, at the deepest levels of spiritual or philosophical inquiry, language breaks down and mystics just fall silent.
They just stop talking.
What's incredible is the historical consensus on this. People from entirely different eras, geographies, and cultures all hit the exact same linguistic wall.
You see it everywhere once you know what to look for. Look at Lao Tzu opening the Tao Te Ching thousands of years ago. The very first line translates roughly to, "The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao."
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate, he identifies the core mechanical problem. The moment you force the infinite reality into a finite concept, you kill it. You are left with a shadow, a menu.
Zen Buddhism codified this exact insight. Zen masters were notoriously frustrating to their students because they flat out refused to give verbal answers to deep questions.
What is the sound of one hand clapping kind of stuff?
Yeah, a student would ask, "Master, what is the nature of enlightenment?" And the master would deliberately do something nonverbal. They would point at the moon, or abruptly strike a bell, or just sit in total uncomfortable silence.
Because giving them a word would just give them another cage.
Precisely. They understood the mechanics of the trap. Any verbal explanation they gave would instantly be weaponized by the student's mind into just another concept to cling to, another mental prison.
It had to be experienced directly, prior to language.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Eastern philosophy. Christian mystics hit the exact same barrier.
Oh, absolutely.
Meister Eckhart wrote that God is beyond every possible name or description. The anonymous monk who wrote the famous 14th century text, The Cloud of Unknowing, explicitly instructed that ultimate reality can never be reached through human thought, but only through a direct, wordless letting go.
The Sufi poets hammered this point home, too. The Hindu sages built entire traditions around it.
Across centuries and continents, separated by entirely different vocabularies, they all arrived at the exact same scientific and spiritual discovery. Reality fundamentally exceeds description.
Which leaves us staring down a truly compelling, deeply personal question.
What's that?
If the identity we so fiercely defend every single day, our labels, our history, our story is largely a linguistic construct created by thought, what actually happens if that story briefly stops?
If the flashlight turns off.
Yes. What remains when the machinery of words falls silent? It would theoretically be a return to the direct, unmediated experience that the newborn baby knew, but with the full conscious awareness of an adult.
And that leads to the ultimate cliffhanger for this deep dive. Because Joe Bandra doesn't just leave this hanging in the air as abstract philosophy.
He really doesn't.
He actually ends this chapter by teasing a highly personal, incredibly specific event that happened to him on April 15th, 2020.
A very specific date.
An event where, for him, the cognitive prison of language briefly collapsed entirely, and reality stood completely revealed without a single word to mediate it. But of course, the mechanics of how that happened are in the next chapter, so we have to wait.
It's a masterful structural choice by the author. It takes everything we've meticulously discussed about the mechanics of physics, psychology, and philosophy, and grounds it entirely in a lived, visceral human experience.
So what does this all mean? How do we actually walk away from this and apply it to our Tuesday morning?
Right. How do we use this?
Language is a magnificent servant, but it is a tyrannical master. The goal of Bandra's chapter is not to reject language. The goal is to start seeing the cracks in the prison wall. to intimately realize that every single concept your brain generates is just a concept. The word awareness is not awareness. The map is never, ever the territory.
If you can just hold that understanding, the moment you stop confusing your mental descriptions with the living reality described, an entirely new way of living opens up. You can begin to actually encounter reality directly rather than just thinking about it.
I love that.
I want to leave you with a practical challenge. An experiment you can run on your own neurology right now. Look around the room you are currently in and pick a mundane, familiar object. A coffee cup, a pen, a plant. Stare directly at it for 60 uninterrupted seconds. But as you look at it, actively refuse to let your mind name it.
That's harder than it sounds.
It is. Refuse to describe it. Don't call it a cup. Don't think about its color. Don't think about where you bought it. Don't think about its utility. Hold the attention without the label. If you strip away the word, the history, and the use, what is actually left staring back at you?
That is the perfect way to test the boundaries of the map for yourself. We invite you to keep exploring Joe Bandra's territory beyond the map, and remember what we said at the very beginning. You are constantly swimming in an ocean of vibrations, wielding a superpower that builds entire worlds. Just don't ever forget that the ocean is infinitely bigger than the tiny lines we draw on it. See you next time.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might benefit from the conversation. Your support helps us continue exploring the deepest questions of life, consciousness, and reality. I am Julia Carter, and it is my honor to introduce Joe Bandra, author, philosopher, speaker, healthcare technology pioneer, and lifelong explorer of life's questions. Through his writing, Joe bridges science, philosophy, psychology, spirituality, and direct experience in a search for truth. His first book, Finding Nevaeh, is a transformative journey of self-discovery and the search for lasting happiness. His second book, Body, Mind, and Machine, chronicles his remarkable career and the evolution of healthcare technology. His next book, The Nature of Reality, explores consciousness, existence, and the mysteries at the heart of human experience. Joe's work invites us to look beyond what we think we know and awaken to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
Life often feels like an endless list of tasks, constant noise and distractions, pulling us in every direction. We're all searching for happiness, but what if we've been looking in the wrong places all along?
This was Nevaeh's journey. Lost in the noise, she felt cut off from the peace and happiness she longed for, until she met Joe Bandra, an unconventional, insightful philosopher with a different perspective. Jay, as he is simply known, didn't hand her a map. He gave her something far more valuable, a compass, a way to turn inward, navigate her own thoughts, and uncover the clarity hidden beneath the chaos.
Readers around the world have been touched and inspired by Finding Nevaeh.
Your journey to inner peace begins now. Get your copy of Finding Nevaeh, available on Amazon and at findingnevaeh.org, or listen to the audiobook on Audible, Spotify, Apple, and other platforms.